Hi guys, I'm John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Today we're looking at 100 Bullets number 11. First we have the Seven of Swords by World Fantasy Tarot, the Cannibal. Now this is obviously a giant like Jack and the Beanstalk. There are a lot of different kinds of cannibals, and this is a synchronicity. Wait till you see today's comic. I remember this one. I didn't know it was coming up today. Take a look at the cover. Heartbreak, sunny side up. Up here it says, I hate crime fiction. Really hate crime fiction. But I love this book. It transcends the genre. It hooks me in. Alex Ross. I have a similar feeling towards superhero fiction. I despise it. I find it weak writing. Whatever. Here we get a little comic. This is kind of cute. It's not very well done. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's an ad. An ad should make sense, and it doesn't. But I like the art. Here's our story. Eduardo Risso killing it on the art again. Heavy blacks, but still doing the work. Heavy blacks, still doing the work. Now, the way this starts off, I should have remembered what it was from the first page, because I have read this before. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, but I read this. And what I was immediately struck with was, here's this husband coming home from a hard day's work, and his wife is in the bedroom getting dressed. And he's not shocked by this. My first thought was, oh damn, she's cheating on him. And then I remembered the story. He asks her about this bra she's got. She's like, I needed a new bra. My other ones were getting ratty. I'm an old lady. I need support. And they have a decent relationship. They talk about a fellow nearby, one of the guys that he knows who's retiring, went to work for the city for 30 years. They're not even close to retiring. They don't seem to have a lot saved. They live in a small, one-story, two-bedroom house. She is on her way to work, and she stops by her daughter's room. Her daughter's room is still arranged like a child's room. Pretty small bed. She goes in, sits down for a minute. He asks her if dinner's ready. She says it's in the fridge. Clearly, this lady lost her daughter, right? This is a hard comic. If you guys aren't in the mood to be pissed off, you might want to just dip out of this one for today. Again, magnificent artwork by Eduardo Risso. And boy, Brian Azzarello really pushed in on this one. He really did. Another ad for Transmetropolitan. Nobody loves him and everybody hates him. Spider Jerusalem. This is Warren Ellis' book. 3 eyes on the coffee cup. Her husband settles down with a beer and his lazy boy. They say goodbye to each other. So this couple, this is like that Rutger Hauer movie with Michelle Pfeiffer and, God, why am I spacing on the kid from Ferris Bueller? Matthew Broderick, Lady Hawk, where she turns into a hawk every day and then becomes a woman at night, and he turns into a wolf every night, and they only see each other for a few minutes at sunrise and sunset. So these two only see each other in passing. She works at a little cafe diner, which is more like a breakfast sort of lunch spot than a dinner spot. This kid is the cook, and he screwed up an order. He was supposed to get the supermodel's cottage cheese, or what is it? Cottage cheese instead of fries. And they're not supermodels, but they're young women. He's getting ready to go to college. This is the side story that Brian Azzarello worked in to the main plot. so that the story doesn't get boring. And he's got a girlfriend named Jenny, and they're teasing him about it, and he's telling them that he has to break up with her. Now, this kid sees himself as a player, and he comes right out and says it. Not a lot of subtext in this issue, but there is some undisclosed parts. Again, face in shadow when it really wouldn't be. He's telling them he has to break up with his girlfriend because he's going to school and long distance relationships don't work. These are two old women who got married pretty young, never went to college, still doing their best to be good people. He's hitting on them blatantly, making them feel good, but at the same time, they're siding with his girlfriend, you know? They are women after all. And they are not impressed that he's going to take advantage of her and leave her behind. Agent Graves comes in, and that panel is at a cant. Things are about to go sideways. He asks for a piece of pie. He knows her last name and asks her to sit down. Now, I've known a guy named Roach, and her last name is Roach. I'm presuming she's married to a guy named Phil Roach. We're going to see what happens. This is a hard comic. He tells her that they need to talk, but that he needs some food. He's hungry, and he'd do it better on a full stomach, so he asks for a piece of pie. And he knows her daughter. She asks if he knows him, if he knows her. He's like, no, I know your daughter. She naturally freaks out and demands some information. Her daughter's been missing for 4 years. He insists on getting that piece of pie first. Clint Eastwood really would have been great. I've been thinking about who else could play this role. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, maybe. You know, the other day I said J.K. Simmons doesn't have the gravitas. Gravitas is exactly what he has. He doesn't have the height. He's not tall enough. And to me, that matters in casting. But if he were willing to play the part, I'd give it to him. There's a scene in the air up there with Anna Kendrick and George Clooney where Anna Kendrick has to fire him. She works for George Clooney, and they go around firing people for big corporations. And she has to fire him, and he says, "What am I going to tell my kids? They're never going to respect me again." And she says, "They already don't respect you." If you're working in a job where you can get fired, yeah, your kids don't respect you. That's pretty accurate. That foot looks a little small. Whatever. Anyhow, she sits down and he explains to her what's happened to her daughter over the last 4 years since she ran away from home. And it's a pretty brutal story. She was scared. She was very young. She got taken advantage of. She was turned into a prostitute. She got into drugs. She caught diseases, specifically HIV, and then suffered another series of debilitating diseases. She was brutally abused by one of her clients who burned her face and did other mutilations to her. And when she went to the hospital for that was when she found out that she was HIV positive. Her pimp, for lack of a better word, wouldn't have had any problem with her having a disease, but he couldn't let her keep working with a scarred face. So he put her back out on the street. After a year, she died from various diseases. She passed away about a week ago. And Agent Graves is delivering this news with his typical emotionless candor. but I can't believe this is typical even for him. This had to be a hard comic for the writer and the artist to do. But this comic made the series. This comic made the series, and it makes Agent Graves. This comic really defines his character. He's not just in it for the money or the power or the leverage. He is an elemental force of nature. He's doing God's work. Lily, I think is her name, is absolutely distraught. She says she would have been 16, her birthday. Today happens to be her birthday. She would have been 16. She ran away at 12 years old. What forces a young girl to run away at 12 years old? No brothers or sisters. I want to leave the art up, but it's heartbreaking, you know. It's hard to look at. So Agent Graves isn't done yet. He's about to explain to Lily Roach how she can get her revenge. Not on the pimp, not on the guy who hurt her. The guy who hurt her went to jail. The pimp wasn't really the problem. He gives her the briefcase with a gun and 100 rounds of untraceable ammunition and a photo, what really drove Lily's daughter to run away from home. Meanwhile, the kid has gotten a phone call from his girlfriend. His demeanor absolutely changes. The two waitresses ask what's going on, and he explains his girlfriend, who he was planning on breaking up with, is pregnant. This is a hard-hitting issue. The waitresses explain, well, that's your problem. You got to take care of her. She's your future. He says, no, it's her problem. I'm going to college. And Lily agrees with the kid. It's Jenny's problem. Her entire demeanor has changed. She knows this kid is a piece of shit. He'd gladly sleep with either of these two waitresses just for the fun of it. I've never been that kind of guy. It's probably why I'm single. I saw a meme today that said, the ugliest and the most attractive guys both have the least respect or the most hatred for women. I sure can relate to that. Although I don't hate this girl. Not at all. I hate her for being an idiot, but the hate isn't the right word. I have contempt for her for being an idiot and for being a poor judge of character. Lots of women are poor judges of character because they date for the wrong reasons. Most women date for money and get exactly what they deserve. And that's something I want to talk about today too. Kind of off subject a little bit. Not exactly what you guys think I want to talk about. Anyhow, a young family comes in, and as they take Graves' seat, the wife, the mother, asks Lily to hold her baby for a second. And she goes home, sits down with her husband, thinks about committing suicide. He wakes up. She says, you fell asleep in your chair again. You shouldn't do that. It's bad for your back, etc., etc. She explains, I met a man tonight. He gave me a picture of a stranger. This guy looks Jewish to me. Lily says to him, you bastard, our daughter, my baby, my little girl, she was 7 years old. Since she was 7 years old. This is a hard comic. But she unloads one magazine and that's not enough. Graves is standing outside And she goes through all 100 bullets on this guy. I hope she had a good life insurance policy. Not that it matters. Agent Graves is an avenging angel. "100 Bullets, number 11. Hey guys, I am John Carrick, author of Legacy of a Mad Scientist and The Legend of Ashley Fox. Awesome science fiction fantasy novels for you. Today, we're looking at 100 Bullets, number 11. This is straight power. This is why I read comics, why I write. This is a pretty intense book. And I'm sorry if I spoiled it for you, but if you're into comics, you should have already read it. Let's be honest. No excuses, right? So, today's conflicted card is the 9 of Clubs. And this one says Morgan is on his way home. And all the electrical grid has been disrupted. Whether it's a CME, coronal mass ejection, or an electromagnetic pulse for a nuclear warhead, doesn't really matter. The point is he's trying to get home, and he has had a few opportunities to use a radio to contact his family. And he tries to keep the conversations short so that people can't trace their signal. He also tries not to give away a bunch of information that people could use to trace either him or his family. And the question is, what would you do for your family if you're on your way home? How often would you try and get in touch with them? I haven't talked about this too much. I have mentioned that I'm the oldest of 14 kids. I do think that my parents may not have been the people that they ended up being at the end when they started. I don't think they necessarily had a plan, but I do believe the choices we make magnify our personalities. So, that family is everything, right? And in this book, it's pretty obvious just how devastating that can be when you're with someone who doesn't see things that way. I don't want to talk trash on my parents necessarily, but they made mistakes. Everyone's made mistakes. I don't have a family right now. I'm on my own. And I see every phone call as an interruption, not in people calling me, but me calling them. When you call someone, you're interrupting whatever they're doing. You're presuming that they have nothing better to do than to talk to you. You're a needy, greedy fish. And what do you really get out of it, you know? So I don't make a lot of phone calls. I'm busy. I have stuff to do. I have work to do. I have training to do. And I was listening to Perch talk about a lot of the guys who do these sort of YouTube videos for comics, about how they all have toys and Funko Pops arranged behind them. They're basically the same kind of guy. This is my idea of a toy. This is what I love. Oh, you guys, there's this movie called The Grandmaster, set in China and industrial, like sort of the Industrial Revolution in China. And this guy takes on a whole series of martial arts masters, but he's fighting in a narrow corridor, and he goes up against 3 guys with these giant plank-like swords, and they fight like this. They use them like this, and it's really amazing. I think that's part of the HEMA, the historical European martial arts guys, have found that a lot of that sword fighting, those swords, a lot of times the handle was just for a single hand. It really couldn't support 2 hands. I mean, maybe if you had small hands like me, but some of those big Viking guys, 1 hand for the sword and 1 hand for the shield. But some of the continental Europeans also fought like this with a mailed glove. A lot of those swords were double-edged, so you'd have to use a mailed glove. But this is the kind of stuff that informs my writing. I'm an absolute sociopath and a psychopath, and one of the things I want to talk about today is this kid, Alex Hormozi. I call him a kid, but he's probably like 35. He's a businessman, he went to college, he didn't go to the military, and he quit a $120,000 financial consulting job to open a gym. And he went bankrupt like 6 times. And every single one of his business partners basically robbed him. Most of them did. One of them took everything. He's went bankrupt like 6 times. So the reason I bring that up is I don't know how I would deal with that. I really don't. Revenge is a real thing. Revenge, it's not the money that gets you killed, it's the disrespect. And once I learned that, I mean, I've been training all my life because of my physical handicap with my eyes and being uncoordinated as a kid. I was the only kid on 7th grade basketball team not to score a shot the entire year. And the most humiliating thing about that was at the last 30 seconds of the final game where our team was losing, they kept giving me the ball to try and get me to make a shot, and I couldn't. I didn't make a shot. And it was embarrassing as fuck for both teams. I remember kids on my team telling the other kids, he hasn't scored all year, just let him. And the buzzer rang, and that was it. And so, yeah, I understand ambition and motivation, and I understand succeeding too. Because even though I didn't do good in 7th grade, all it took for me was more practice. I just had to work harder than everybody else. And I've never stopped. I haven't made a bunch of money yet, but money hasn't really been my goal. What's really been my goal is honesty and truth in the work that I do, in the artwork that I do. I never saw money. I knew that money wasn't going to make me happy. I would just be another drone trying to make his mortgage and trying to support his wife and his kids for the next vacation. And that was not enough for me. This is way more important. I don't know if you guys can see this full sword. This is called an okatana. It's about 6 feet long. A little bit less, maybe 5 feet. No, look at that. 5 foot, what, maybe 6 inches? 5.5 feet long with a probably 4.5 foot blade. You could fight with this one like this. You really could. And you should know how. You should know how to, not just to fight with a sword, you should know how to fight. Like I said, I'm a bit of a psychopath. I haven't been in a fist fight since I was a kid. I was always in martial arts after getting out of high school. The professional martial arts, the Marine Corps. And I'm not right now. I can't say always. There's been years where I've, haven't been training, but I've been training on my own, working out, doing whatever I need to do to stay fit. But the self-reliance and the self-esteem that I've gained through this stuff can't be bought. It cannot be bought with money. So to me, that has always been way more important. And what I'm fascinated about Alex Hormozi is that he let these people take advantage of him. Not let them, but from what I understand, he hasn't sought revenge at all. He's on his way to being a billionaire. He's making $100 million a year with his company acquisition.com. Massively impressed with that kid. That's $10 million a month. That's impressive. And now he has books. I think he's writing a novel now. His books are business books. They're not the same as this. He hasn't learned a lot of the same lessons I've learned, but he's jacked. He's built like Conan. He's probably 6 foot, maybe 5'11". I'm 6'2". He's probably like 5'11", 220, 230 pounds. I heard him talking to another guy in the gym about, at one point he was doing 6,000 calories a day, 2 pounds of meat a day. I don't know if he's done steroids or not. That was the edge for me. I would never do that. Henry Cavill says he didn't do it. Steroids, human growth hormone, any injectable. I think they have steroids you can take orally now. I never wanted to do that because the damage to your liver and kidneys is permanent. And I never saw that. At some point, I was working out so much that if it didn't start making money for me, it didn't make sense because it was cutting into the other areas of my life. So still, that doesn't change the fact that if I had that kind of money, if I was making that kind of money, I would go spend a year at Clint Smith's Thunder Ranch and just sign up for every training evolution that he has. And I would build a fucking army. That's exactly what I would do. Private contractors who need money, whose families need money, and I would, assassinations, yeah. Business competitors, done, out of the picture. And maybe that's why God has me where I am. Maybe that's why I haven't been successful, because he knows my moral compass is fucking doing loops. So maybe that's, everything, I certainly do believe everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. I would have been a Sith Lord. I identify, out of all the fictional characters, I identify most with Lucifer. You guys don't know a lot about him. He's the only demon who asked for forgiveness. Lucifer and God are straight. He made a mistake, but he went back and asked for forgiveness. You can argue with me about it, but it's historical fact. I know it for a fact. I know his real name. You guys don't know it. It's not Hillel or Galel or any of those other bullshit ones. I know it. You don't. There's a lot to be learned from that character. He's as close as you can get to God on the mortal plane. God wants you to be a rebel. God wants you to try and fix the world. He wants you to try and put everything up so you'll see how hard it is and you'll see how perfect the world is as it is. I still have issues with people being born with birth defects. It happens to animals too. But one of the revelations I came to in writing these novels is that the world, the surface of the earth is the earth's digestive system. Maybe we're here just to burn things, to destroy them, put them back in the atmosphere so that the evolution can continue. Evolution may be one of God's tools. So I know I've said a lot of nonsense today. This is the second time I'm recording this because the first one was all blurry. Hopefully this one's not, because I don't want to do this a third time. Oh, this is a nice sword too. Check this one out. This is called a Shirasaya, and it has no Suba. Suba is this handguard right here. They're usually very ornamental. The Japanese like to put, they're an artistic people. This one doesn't have one. This is the sort of sword that Zatoichi uses in the Zatoichi movies. And this one happens to be a straight sword. They do have curved ones. This one is also not sharpened, so to be perfect for a movie, it's very, the tip is, but whatever. And it would still hurt to get hit with this, but it wouldn't cut your arm off. So this is one of my favorites. I'm so glad I didn't have to sell all this stuff. Like I said, I recently had to sell a whole bunch of stuff because I got myself into some financial hot water. I thought I was going to have to sell this, and I didn't. I still have a good collection of skateboards. I had to sell 12 of them. I think I had like 2 dozen. So I still have about a dozen left. But revenge. I'm not saying you should live for revenge, but you should be capable of it. Like I said, I've gone out and tried to pick fights. Blacks won't fight you by themselves. They'll only fight you if they're in a group. I've tried. I've found them misbehaving in public and put them in their place. I love being me. So, yeah, this night, stay strapped, stay frosty, as Shank likes to say. Don't give evil an inch, never compromise, never back down, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right, bye.